Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Social Flight Live. I'm Jeff Simon. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We have such a wonderful show for you. Brent Maule is here of Maule Air, and I'm very, very excited to learn about his company and such amazing aircraft as well. Until we get started, and just before, a couple notes here. For those of you out there, tonight's show will be recorded and available on Social Flight's YouTube channel. Just do a search on one word, Social Flight on YouTube, and you can see this and all past recordings of all of our shows. I'm excited to report that this is our 76th show. We started Social Flight Live back at the beginning of the pandemic to support general aviation and to bring people like you together with some of the most inspirational personalities throughout general aviation, just to support one another, learn about each other's stories, and talk about what's happening and what's coming for the future. And the show has really done that. We've met some wonderful people and heard all of their stories. And with that, of course, be sure to check out socialflight.com and the free SocialFlight mobile apps for Apple and Android devices. There are tens of thousands of aviation events and destinations, so many things to get out there and do. That's why we created SocialFlight, to support general aviation, get people flying, and then give you access to in-person events, of course, which are making a comeback, as well as online events like tonight's show that make it possible for you to learn, increase proficiency, or just spend an evening learning and hanging out with fellow aviators like we have tonight. In addition, there is a question and answer feature that you can use in the tool that you're watching the show on right now. We don't take questions directly, but if you post your questions, I'll keep an eye on those and do what I can to try to fit them into our discussion. Now, with that, tonight's guest is Brent Maule, president of Maule Air. For the past 60 years, Maule has been producing some of the most capable, strong, and unique short takeoff and landing aircraft on the planet. Beginning with the famous pioneer BD Maule, Maule continues on as a family business today. And one of the things I just want to say on a personal note, every time I have come across an owner with his aircraft, with his Maule, you get some of the best stories. It really is amazing. I'm going to show a quick picture here before we get started here. This, of course, is the famous picture we will talk about of BD Maule and taking off right out of the hangar. But we were down at Goodspeed Airport in Connecticut, really just a wonderful airport. We came across an owner and his aircraft here that had just recently brought this plane back across the country. It was a new aircraft to him, and you can see this, the utility of these aircraft is just amazing, absolutely beautiful, and I just wanted to kind of share that because it just goes to show wherever you travel, when you come across Maule aircraft, the people go right along with the aircraft, and it's just an absolutely wonderful community. Well, tonight I am thrilled to welcome as our featured guest on Social Flight Live, Brent Maule, who is the current president and grandson of BD Maule, to hear about his story as well as what's happening now at Maule Aircraft and what's coming next for Maule Air. Please welcome Brent Maule. How are you doing, Brent?
Doing great.
Hey,
Glad to be here.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just saying I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
It's, everyone on this show, everyone who's in the audience here loves airplanes. That's why we're here. We love every form of aircraft. But I have to say, Maule aircraft are so unique. You know one the minute you see it. There's no confusing it with something else. And you have a really fascinating niche. Tell me the history of this company so we can understand the foundation of what made this aircraft come to life.
All right. Well, my grandfather, BD Maule, he was the founder, along with my grandmother, June, of Maule Air Incorporated. But it started out as BD Maule Corporation. They started out making tail wheels and fabric testers, and we still make those today. We sell a lot of tail wheels and a lot of fabric testers every year, and that was our beginning product. He started that around 1941, and then built also television antenna towers between airplanes and doing the airplane and doing the tail wheels and fabric tester. He also sold televisions in the 50s when they first came out.
So,
Uh, so
televisions and antenna
televisions,
towers, like that's like you're covering way wide areas.
yes, yeah, he did a lot of things. He farmed, he built aviation products, he did machining, and I'm not exactly sure exactly what work it was, but during World War II, he did stuff for the war effort. Um, so a lot of different things. And so, but going back to the airplane started, the M4 was the first one that we produce, of the production today, that started in 1961 with the type certification, and then the first delivery in 62. But his first airplane was the M1. Now the M1 was powered by a 27 horsepower Henderson motorcycle engine, and you could buy a kit out of a catalog. I almost said online, but you could buy a kit to convert the motor to spin a prop. And so he was 19 years old. He just was a gifted engineer. He said in an interview one time that he learned to fly through a correspondence course. Uh, and so he did that, built the airplane. It was originally on floats. He was going to take off on the Chesapeake Bay, and he never took it off on floats. He actually put it on wheels before he actually did the first flight, and flew it out of a field near Salisbury, Pennsylvania, and it did really well with a 27 horsepower motorcycle engine. I think you got some pictures of it.
Oh
And
man, yeah, let's take a look at a couple things here because you sent some pictures here that I don't think the average person associates with Maule.
right, it looks totally different than our current production. So that's
That's
the M1 with my grandfather sitting inside.
that's amazing. Wow.
There it is on floats. He was in the Army, I guess it was called the Air Corps back then. He was in the lighter than air division, and he designed and built the airplane while he was in the Army. Now that is my grandmother and her sister standing next to my grandfather. And a little story about this picture, just a side note. Um, they were wearing pants. Well, women didn't wear pants in that time. They were the first women in their town to wear pants. Uh, Her brother brought him back from the Navy, and so they were wearing pants, which wasn't the fashion at the time. So,
That's fascinating. So a little progressive thinking back then as well in order to fly the airplane.
yep.
And I want to show people, of course, in a addition to that, let's pull up a picture that that's him.
Yep. That's B.D. Maule. That's my grandfather. Probably somewhere in the late 70s time frame.
That's so cool. So the when did the shape? I mean, all aircraft have a fairly recognizable shape to all of them. When did that aircraft kind of come to be?
Okay, so the M1, as you saw in the pictures, was the first one. Then he built two flapping wing gliders, which was the M2 uh, and the M3, which we still have the fuselage of the M3 here at the factory. Uh, and then M4 was the one that started the business that we have today. The M4 had a round tail, round elevators, and rudder, and we changed that when we went to the M5. Now it has the iconic Maule tail that everybody knows, because we've kept that tail from the M5 through our M9 production. So,
Hmm. Now,
and I
one
can
of the things
explain a little bit about that if you want.
one of the things that's interesting to me before we get to that particular design feature is anytime that it seems like a founder or someone decides on what the identity of a company, of an aircraft is going to be, there's always a unique niche to it. And it seems to me that Maule aircraft are all about utility, and it's in a larger size, right? It's not like a Super Cub, two people in line. It's really usable, side by side, two rows, those types of things. Um,
Yes.
what is there a like a company theme or something along that as to what you're always thinking about with your niche, which is clearly one that you just kind of own in the market?
Well, we are kind of I always, it's maybe not the best analogy, but I say we're like Goldilocks's porridge. You know, you got your 2-seat STOL aircraft, and then you've got your 4-seat travel aircraft, and we kind of combine the two into one. So we've got malls operating in Alaska. I've got some commercial operators up there. They're going and doing stuff in the Cub strips where, typically it's just Cubs. They're taking their mall in there and they're hauling everybody's stuff in there. And, what takes other airplanes 2 or 3 trips, they're doing in 1 trip. And then you've got, so you got the really slow stall speed, but then you've got a nice cruise speed. So it's a great travel plane and you can carry up to 5 people in it. So it's Goldilocks's porridge. It's right there in the middle. It does a little bit of everything. So,
Yeah, it seems to really combine adventure flying with your family, like, or with your business, like you said, of hauling a lot of stuff. That's
mhm.
that's that's this iconic thing. Now, you were going to tell me something about the tail, which is certainly something you recognize from a distance.
Yes, well, my grandmother is the one who actually came up with the idea for the square tail, or we call it a square tail, but it's kind of a trapezoidal tail. She actually is the one who got that ball rolling, and we switched from the M4 to the M5. Was the first one with that tail, and we've carried it through up to our M9 series. The M4, 5, 6, MX7, and the M8 all share a similar fuselage. They're all built in the same jig. All of our planes are built in the same jig. We just swap out the top of the jig to make the larger M7 and M9. But every
Hmm.
other model, uh, except for the M4, carries that tail.
So it kind of came from her, but I mean, obviously there's a lot of tail area there. That must have a pretty significant benefit to what you're really trying to accomplish with the type of flying the plane does.
Well, the original idea behind that larger tail was to get rid of the ventral fin for floats. So we wanted to put a larger tail on it so that we could do away with having to use a ventral fin. It didn't accomplish that goal, but it created an icon. So
Yeah, that's certainly for sure. So, tell me a little bit. It's a whole family business, so you've got a pretty big roster there of people whose last names are Mall.
yes, yes, we've got the 4th generation working here. My nephew is our plant manager. He's 4th generation. Uh, Myself, my wife, my cousin, Charlie, my wife's name is Paula, and my we all work in the business, so be 3rd generation, uh, and then my aunt Shirley and Uncle David, 2nd generation, are working here at the factory, and then my mom and dad started a business called Maule Flight, which is here on the field, and my mom and my sister and my brother-in-law work there. So we got a lot of malls here on the field.
So, Mall Air produces the new aircraft, and Mall
Mhm.
Flight is what handles the rest of the business.
They specialize in maintenance, flight training, used aircraft sales, focused on malls. They've been in business for 50 years.
Wow. So that means it must have started about 10 years after the beginning.
Yes, that's correct.
That's pretty cool. And the company, you had mentioned to me earlier that the company originally started in Detroit area and then, or in Michigan, and then
Mhm.
ended up moving. Tell me about that.
Yes, so we started in Jackson, Michigan, which is about an hour west of Detroit, and specifically in Napoleon, outside of Jackson. Uh, that's where the original factory is, still there today. They've turned it into a kind of a mini mall now, which is kind of funny. You know, it started out as building malls, and now it's like a strip mall. So, but yeah, my grandfather bought a field in Napoleon and converted it into an airport. And he used to farm some of it and farmed across the street. And then, you know, he was building the tail wheels and the fabric testers and the TV towers and everything right there. Built the hangars and started designing the M4 in 1953. Started building it. The story goes, it started building in 55 and it first flew in 57. And we actually have the M4 still here in our factory. We've always had it. And then they started working on the paperwork and get for certification and got type certified in 61. And we built the airplane at the Napoleon factory until 1968 when we moved here to Georgia because of better weather and the right to work law.
Got it. Yeah, and I can definitely imagine as the weather starts to turn this time of year colder and colder, that it makes a lot more sense to be where you are in Georgia now,
Oh
where you
yeah.
can, where it's a little easier at least to be flying and test flying and selling and building aircraft year round.
Yes, yeah. Today I was outside in shorts and a short sleeve shirt, and the weather was beautiful, and we were flying airplanes. So,
That's awesome. So another thing about Maule aircraft that I've always found intriguing is the variations of it. I think a lot of people are used to really cookie cutter General Aviation planes that, a Cessna 172 of this year just has this engine, this plane, this whatever, it is what it is. And that doesn't appear to be the way for Maules. They have all these different variations and different engine combinations and things like that. Help me decipher and understand the whole M series, MX series, and how you have powered these things with everything from smaller engines to big fire breathing turbine engines to diesels. I mean, there's been just about everything on the front of a Maule. Help us understand these.
okay. I know we used to have nicknames associated with like I don't understand the Piper uh, designations. I know a Comanche and a Saratoga and an Archer and everything. I can identify them by that, but I don't know the numbers. Uh, we used to call our planes like the Super Rocket, the Strata Rocket, the Lunar Rocket, and everything, and that confused me, which was kind of funny. But I understood the numbers system on ours. It was real simple. So you got your M for Maule, and then the next number would be the series. So the 4 series, 5 series, 6 series, and then the numbers on the end are going to be your horsepower. So we have the original M4 didn't have a number designation on there. It was just called the M4, but it was a 145 horsepower uh, motor. It was a 0300 Continental, and we built that one for, I don't know when we stopped production, but I know that it was the only engine available for at least 1 to 2 years. And then after that, we came out with a 210 Continental and a 220 Franklin powered. So that would have been the M4 210C. We had the 210 and the 210C. The C stood for cargo. That's when we came out with our famous doors that open away from each other so you can load cargo in big cargo. Um, then we had the 220C. Then let's see, There's one gentleman out there that put a 235 horse on the front of an M4. That was done afterwards. It wasn't done at the factory, but
Oh, okay.
there is
So it wasn't
one.
one of yours.
No, there is one
I
flying.
want to show those cargo doors too, because if you're talking about a fabric stall aircraft and you can open the doors like this, that's the definition of that utility.
Yes, you've got about 55 inches of length of opening there. It's big. Um, I've put 2 mountain bikes and 2 people inside one. I heard of a guy that put 3 people in 3 mountain bikes. I haven't asked him yet how he did it, but that was impressive. So
That's okay. So you've got so what's the difference between the 4, 5, 4, 5, 7, and 8 and
yeah,
9?
so yeah, you can just count right up the ladder. The only one that's kind of different is the MX series. So I'll go through that. So you got your M4, and that's the round tail one. It's the only one with the round tails. Then we went to the M5. The tail changed on it. The wings changed a little bit. They got a little bit longer. The aileron got bigger. Uh, I want to say one other thing, because a lot of people, even today, they're surprised when they find out we have all metal wings, and it's probably because most fabric airplanes have fabric wings. But we've been having all metal wings for a long time, since probably, well, I know the first 11 had all fabric wings and fabric surfaces. And then we started doing metal wings after that. And then there was a certain number that had fabric control surfaces, but very low serial number, like maybe in the 30s, we switched over to all metal wings. So aileron, flap, everything, all metal. So since 1963, roughly, we've been all metal wings. So the M5 got the new tail. It also got the longer wing, the droop tip. Then the and the engine changes. So you had 180 horsepower on there, a Lycoming 0360. You got the 210 and the 220 on those as well. And then you got the 0540 on the M5, so you could get the 235 horse, and that's been real popular. That's real popular up in Alaska, as well as the 210 is also popular up there. And then, so we built that. That's probably the one we built the most of. We built a lot of M5s, and we
Hmm.
built it from the early 70s to the late 80s. And then we made the M6. The M6 got a longer wing, 2-foot longer wingspan, a huge flap, 120 inch flap.
Wow.
And the ailerons were kind of small on it, but really handles really nice. A famous, sought after model. And we brought that back into production, and I'll get into that later, the retro models. But that was the M6, and the M6 also, the flap system changed from a cable system to the torque tube. And you also got the negative flap setting, which is another thing that we're famous for that I don't see anybody else doing. Uh,
Right.
so that
Yeah,
was
for
the
people out
M6.
there, that's reflexing the flaps, where right they go actually up, which effectively makes the wing smaller and gives you some better speed.
Hmm. That's true. Up to 7 mile an hour I've seen.
Wow, that's a pretty big difference.
It is. It is. I tell you, the cruise to stall range on the Maule is huge. So like an M7 will cruise at about 135 knots, but stall at 37 or less. So it's a,
Wow.
it's a huge difference. And so from the M6, we went up to the M7. And what changed on that is the wing got even longer. It's 9 inches longer wingspan. Had a huge 126 inch flap on it and a 53 inch aileron, and the cabin grew. It was the first one to have a 5th seat, and the cargo area, the way we accomplished that was the cargo area grew 5 inches longer inside, 3 inches taller, and that allowed that extra room for the 5th seat. And they're all built in the same jig, except we had to change the top out on the jig so that we could accomplish that increased height.
So that's the top tube is basically for the whole thing in the cabin went up.
Yeah, you really notice the difference in the cargo area. That's where the huge difference is of 3 inches. You know, the pilot and co-pilot seats, you won't notice the headroom difference. You'll start to notice it in the second row seats, and then in the 5th seat is where you really notice it.
Wow.
And
Okay,
you can
so
see
now
it
we're
from
up.
the outside. You can
So now
tell the
we're up
difference.
to what, the 7?
Now we're up to the 7, and then we came up with the MX7, and the MX7 has the fuselage of an M6, but it had shorter wings than the M6. And I don't know the whole history on why. It might have been maybe more of a modern M5. I don't know the exact history on that, but the MX7, and we still build it today, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But the original MX7 was 180 horsepower or 235 horsepower, but it had a 30-foot 10-inch wingspan like the M5, but square tips instead of the droop tips. So it had a 53-inch aileron, and I don't remember the flap length on it, but anyway, that was kind of like a modern M5, I guess you could say.
So what's the mission of something like that? Is that just meant to be faster, or?
Um, you know, it's I think it's a better performer than the M5. Got a little more flap. And why once he had the big fuselage, why he went to the smaller one? Probably just because we've never put 180 horsepower engine on an M7. It's always been on the smaller fuselages, so it was probably just to keep that 4-cylinder available.
Mhm.
And I think we may have even been building M5s at the time too. So they call AOPA, someone from AOPA nicknamed us the Potato Head Factory, because you can take parts off of one and put it on another and make a whole different model. So, which we've done a lot of. So, with two fuselages, a lot of different wings, a lot of different engines, over 50 different models on the same type certificate.
Did you
So
say over
just
50 models on one type certificate?
yes.
That's impressive. That's really impressive.
Yeah, it's amazing the variety of Maules out there, and some of them we only built 1 or 2 of, so they're super rare. We've got some that had a 200 horsepower. We had a turbocharged model. We built, I think, maybe 10 or 12 of those. Also in the MX7 and in the M7 at the same time, we came out with the turbine version, and that was in the late 80s. My dad actually was the one who got that going. It was an Allison 250 B17C, and we built those up until 2008. And you want to talk about a performer? That's a performer.
What's
My
the
brother-in-law holds a
what's the
world
mission?
record time to climb. Um,
Oh,
I don't know what the original mission was, other than to see if we could do it, but it makes an awesome float plane off the water in 4 seconds. And we went to 10,000 feet in 4 minutes and 23 seconds. So,
oh my goodness. That is so cool. And I love that. Just to see if we could do it. Yeah.
yeah, my dad was quite an innovator too. He did a lot of things. My grandfather designed the plane. My dad did a lot of product upgrades, and as well as my uncle too. My uncle does some amazing things. Some of the some of the neat features of the aircraft my uncle designed, like our gas strut swing out windows, big overhead skylight, and our door latch system that's out of this world. And we got something else coming out here real soon. I don't know if I want to mention it right now, but if you were at the fly-in, I showed it off a little bit, but we don't have approval yet, so I might not say anything. I might keep that one
Oh,
until we
really?
get
You're not going to
approved.
let me
Yeah.
tease something out of you that you already showed at your fly-in?
Well, we're gonna have some pretty cool doors coming out here pretty soon, where the whole door will lift up. And
Wow.
yeah, they call them seaplane doors, and we're just going through the approval process right now. But the whole door will lift up, gull wing style. It opens up the entryway a lot, so it just makes it a lot easier to get in and out. Plus, it looks cool, and
That's
hopefully we'll be able to, because you can fly them all with one or the other of the front doors off, and or both of the back doors off. I do that for aerial photography a lot. I'm hoping we'll be able to fly this with both front doors open. That would be really awesome. It's fun to
yeah.
fly with no doors. So
That is so cool. So you've put turbo engines on it. There was a diesel one too, right?
diesel, yes, yes. The M9 230. We've got the prototype here. It was using a SMA SR305 engine, which isn't in production. The technology was sold to Continental, and they're working on it. They're developing their version of it. Great flying airplane, fast, super fast. It was as fast as a 260. Did about 137 knots or better, depending on your altitude, but burned fuel like a 180 horse. We
Wow.
calculated you could go from here to California with one fuel stop.
Really?
Yeah,
That's amazing. Georgia to California, one fuel stop along the way in your Maule M9 diesel.
yes,
And
yes,
pull in for Jet A and watch the FBO scratch their head on that one with a tail dragger for looking for Jet A.
exactly, exactly. So uh, they're uh, they're not producing, the SMA is not producing that engine anymore, but like I say, Continental is, and there's a company in Germany that's going to be working with the enhanced engine that SMA came out with afterwards. So hopefully we'll see that project revive.
That's very cool. Now, what is the difference between the M9, which is one we didn't get to, and the M7?
Okay, so let me jump real quick to the M8, because we don't want to forget that one. That one, we only built 5 of them, but I know there's at least one conversion. It's a spring gear version of the M6, basically. And so it's got the smaller fuselage with the 235 horse engine, 32 foot 11-inch wingspan. Really a nice airplane. We just didn't build many of them because we had the M7 with the bigger fuselage with the spring gear. It was called the M7 235C, the M7 260C. So it kind of competed, and people just chose, if we're going to do that, we're just going to go with the one that has a little bigger fuselage. So we didn't build many of the M8. Going to the M9, it's an M7. It starts out like an M7 235 or 260C. It's got a beefed up gun drilled landing gear. So the spring gear is thicker. It's also gun drilled, so there are only external brake lines at the base, and really nice, really sleek. The fuselage has got some key beef ups in the carry through tube, and also in the tail. And then the wing has a lot of enhancements to carry that extra weight. It's got some spar stiffeners, 2 on each spar. It's got an enhanced end rib there at the wing root, thicker skin on the tank lids, some bigger bolts in the wing attachment,
So
some
it's a lot
fittings.
tougher.
Yeah, a lot tougher. It'll carry a lot. So
And
that's
then the one that we saw at Goodspeed, that wasn't even a tail dragger. That one had nose gear.
yeah. So that's an MT7. That is a 260. I'm pretty sure there, because the paint job, if it's the same plane, uh, that one was bought by the president of Discovery Channel, and it was an
Yes, that is
MT7
the same
260.
plane. That's the story.
Yeah, so that's it, MT7 260. Um, and we make that in the 235 as well. That was what came out first, was a 235. Really a nice flying airplane. Will perform like the tail dragger. You just don't take it into, as the same strips. You wouldn't take it into a rough strip like you would a tail dragger. We
Hmm.
also make a MXT, which is the 180 horsepower version, with the smaller fuselage. We make that model too. That's a really nice flying airplane. But
Yeah,
they
it
all are.
still looks like that gear still looks pretty tough. It doesn't look like you'd have to think twice about taking it on unimproved or grass strips. Just probably not as much backcountry as a tail dragger.
Right. Yeah. No, you probably wouldn't want to visit a sandbar or something like that with it, but the um it is a tough gear. My dad says it's similar to a Cherokee 6 nose gear, and it's beefy. If you see a picture or see one in person without the cowling, there's a lot of structure. It's tough.
Wow. So you must have one heck of a relationship with your local FAA aircraft certification office because I've never heard of. So we talked at the beginning when we got into this whole laundry list of all the different things that you do. There is a lot of mixing and matching, and as you mentioned, 50 different aircraft on your type certificate. And now you've got doors coming out. How do you keep churning things through like this? That's a wonderful model that I wish more people had the freedom and ability to follow.
Yeah, it takes persistence. Nice thing is we've got a long history. We've got a good history, and a great safety record. Uh, Very few ADs throughout our history, and we build our we build our products very strong, very tough. They're going to last, and we don't get crazy with the ideas. We're not trying, you know, really wild stuff. We're just really improving upon a solid platform.
Hmm.
So, and we were blessed with a platform that's easy to improve upon, to change, to upgrade. And it's just, 60 years, and we can modernize it to, today's, you know, glass panels and everything like that. And it's just a timeless design.
Yeah.
So.
It's so cool. Do you get a fair number of people that come to you with all the different options that are out there and essentially want a version of the aircraft that you haven't produced at all or haven't produced recently and isn't really on the lineup and they kind of want one custom for them?
Yeah, so every plane we built is built to order, uh, and we had so the M7, which I talked about, we started building in '82 was the first year, and then we built the last one of the straight M7, the one with the super long wing, the big aileron. Last one was built in '94. In 2017, a customer, Isaac Bedingfield of God's Country Aviation, came to us and said, I want to have an original M7. He was flying one, very successful with it. He said, I want one built for me. So we said, okay, let's do it. For years, we only built one wing. We built what we call the universal wing, and it's on all the MX-7 180A, B, C, AC, MXT, M7 235C, a lot of different models shared the same wing, the universal wing. And it made it nice for production flow. But you know we dabbled with going retro in 2004. My dad said, let's build the M4 again, but we made it different. We made it a M4 180V, and it had a 0360 on it, and it was only a two-door, two-seat. It had MX-7 wings on it, and really a fun airplane to fly. We built about 14 of those. So that was our first trip back in time, just with a little modernization on it. Then Isaac said, hey, I want to build a M7. And so we said, okay. So we built the long wing, and he has done amazing things with that airplane up in Alaska. I've never seen anybody make the airplane do what he makes it do. When he first picked it up, we did a lot of things. We kept it really light. That was another thing. You know, as airplanes, as you improve things, things get heavier. So, you know, we just really paid attention to all the details and did everything we could to lighten the aircraft, and without having to sacrifice anything. We just, you know, paid attention and were conscious of, you know, what we did. And we able to get that airplane. I think he's had like, let's just say 950 useful load, which
Wow.
was really good. It was, you know, kind of hinting towards the original M7s. And I saw him at Valdez. He had picked up the airplane. He had 35-inch tires on it. The things he did after the airplane was completed, the only thing that wasn't stock is he put an 83-inch MT prop on there, and he put 35-inch Alaska bush wheel tires and the 4-inch extended landing gear on there. And he went to Valdez, and he had a carbon fiber floorboard put in, which now we've got carbon fiber interior panels and floorboards approved, and it's saving close to 20 pounds, 17 to 20 pounds on the interior weight. And he took off in 87 feet, I think is what they officially clocked it at. Took off in 87 feet and landed in 98 feet. And he won, and took, you know, won his class. And I think he would have came in like second or third in the Cub class with the Maule. And he does amazing things in Alaska with it. He's, you know, flying cargo and passengers, and, you know, landing in amazing places. You can see a lot of his videos online. But I've never seen anybody take off in 87 feet or land in 98 feet in a Maule. Is really impressive. So
Even that famous one of your grandfather coming out of the hangar door.
yeah, even he took a little bit longer to get off. But the last time he did that, he took off and had to dive down a little bit to get out of the door. And the story is my grandmother came out and put her foot down. It's like, no more playing around, no more hangar flying.
Exactly. That's a whole different level of hangar flying.
Exactly.
So
So
you mentioned a bunch of times lengthening the wing again. What's that do to handling? What's the purpose? Is it just to get more stall capability, or what's the purpose of all the wing lengthenings?
yeah, just to get that extra stall performance. Like the M7, we have a 126-inch flap. That's the longest flap that we've done, and a 53-inch aileron. Now, and that's on a 33-foot 8-inch wingspan. Now, what we have done, because some people like more aileron, is we've got an A model, and what we did is we put a 60-inch aileron, which is the same one we use on our universal wing, and the flap went down to 119 inches. So you didn't lose a lot of flap. You still have a big flap, but you've got that extra aileron. And I've talked to Isaac about that, and he says when you put the VGs on it, it really takes care of any, you know, differences in aileron
Hmm.
that you encounter going with the shorter one if you got the VGs on there.
Oh, so you put the vortex generators on there, which is what you mean by the VGs, and then
Yes.
and then a smaller aileron will still do what you need to do.
Right. That's what he said. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Now, one of the things that you also mentioned is, and this goes to your support and community, you, you sell a lot of mod kits. So people out in the field that go and buy a used Maule, um, or just happen to have had theirs for a long time, they they can switch them to all sorts of different configurations. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we've got, like I said, Potato Head Factory. Uh, you can take, for example, an M5, and we have a mod kit. You can convert it to an M6. So you put the new flap system in, you put the wings on it for an M6, which you can put our universal wings on it. We even and a longer cord rudder on it. The rudder cord also changed between the M5 and the M6, the later model M6. But you can also, once you have it in the M6 configuration, then you can put the M7 long wings on there and turn it into a long wing M6, and then it's a ridiculous flying machine. It is really a stole machine. So, because you got that
That's
smaller fuselage, lighter, and those big wings, it's beautiful, beautiful plane.
that's yeah, and you also mentioned about engines. Both of our friends and one of our friends and viewers out there, John Garabedian's got one,
Yeah.
and there you can change engines and switch that as well. That's not something everybody can do with most aircraft out there. Is think, okay, yeah, it's time for me to get into TBO, or I want to switch engines. I think I'm gonna get rid of this Lycoming. I'm gonna go to a Continental. I'm gonna switch completely. Like that's not something everyone can do.
Right. Well, like John, he had an MX. He bought an MX-7 180C from me a few years ago, and he had a 235 horse before, and he kind of missed that horsepower. So he called us up, ordered a mod kit. Now he's converted his plane to an M8, which is a 235 horse version of the MX-7 180C. So just with an engine cowling change. So, and
That's
a
so
few other things.
so cool. That's really wild. Now, one question, of course, that a lot of people would of course be wondering. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of variations out there, but can you give me a range? I mean, what do malls go for these days?
On the new side
On
or
the new
used?
side, on the new side.
New side. Yeah, so the new ones are, they'll start, well, let me see, I got a price list here. I want to make sure I don't misquote. Um, the new ones start at around 332 for
Hmm.
a MX-7 180B, which is our universal wing, 4-seat, 180 horsepower. And then they range up to the M9 260, which is our flagship, at 399.9, so just under 400.
So the bottom line is they're pretty much all in the 300s.
Mm-hmm. That's
That's
correct.
and it may seem strange to say in this world, but reality is if you go shopping for airplanes, that's actually a pretty reasonable price point to be at when you're talking a brand new airplane.
It is. I always say it's the lowest cost per seat of anything out there, because the two-seaters are running mid threes now. There might be a couple out there that are under three, but not many. But you only got two seats. Uh, you can have 5 seats in the mid threes with the Maule, so
Yeah,
it's the lowest
it's
cost per seat.
that is pretty impressive. Five seats under $400,000.
Hmm. Yep.
Now,
And amazing
community, of course, is
performance,
big. What's that?
and amazing performance with it. So.
Yeah, that's true. You can take them take them pretty much anywhere for that with all those 5 seats. And if grandma doesn't have a field, an actual airport near, then maybe she's got a field you can land in.
Exactly. Yeah, we've landed in some strange places. Um, so it's fun.
I can only imagine. Now you guys have a wonderful community. I think buying into a mall puts you in that community, and you just had a fly-in. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, the mall community, when you buy a mall, it's a family business. family operation. We say you're part of the family. So when you buy a Maule, you become part of the Maule family. And we have a fly-in every year. We just had our 9th. So next year we're going to be celebrating our 10th annual Maule and All. We call it the Maule and All fly-in. It started out, there was a group out in Texas, and they're still around. It's called the Lone Star Maule Group, and they get together and go do flyouts, and they had their first fly-in the same year I had mine, but I didn't come up with the idea of having a fly-in. I went to theirs, and they had a lot of Maules, and they had a lot of fun, and they were, camping, and they were doing flight competitions and getting great barbecue and just a lot of camaraderie, and it was so much fun. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. I'm bringing it home. So that was like in May, and I came home and I started putting together the Maule homecoming fly-in, and we had that first one was in October, the end of October, and we called it the Maule homecoming fly-in for maybe 2 to 3 years. But I noticed that it wasn't just Maules showing up. We were getting all kinds of planes showing up, and I wanted to just include everybody. So we changed the name to Maule and All Fly-In. So, no matter what you fly, you come and you're welcome, come and hang out with us and have a good time. We just had our fly-in a month ago. I did a count of the people that signed in. Not everybody signs the registration book, but we had 47 airplanes come in. 15 of them were not Maules, which it was we usually have more airplanes coming in, but I think we were competing with another fly-in, a big one that weekend. But we had 32 Maules come in from all over the country. It was great, and everybody had a great time. We did flight competition, short takeoff and landing, flower bomb drop. We have great sponsors. We had 15 major sponsors, and we had great prizes that they gave us to give away at the raffles and at our dinner, and it's a great time. And next year we're going to be celebrating 10 years, so
That's
I hope
awesome.
everybody can show up for that.
Absolutely. That's absolutely fantastic. And obviously here at SocialFlight, we're all about getting people together, all about aviation events. And it's just so great to see things like that making a comeback. How has the past kind of 18 months plus of COVID been for your company and your family and everyone around there? How are things going?
Going pretty well. We've actually, the demand has greatly increased. The issue is, like everybody, supply delays, finding workers. We've lost some workers as a result of the pandemic and everything associated with that, and retirement and the normal things that happen. But getting them replenished has been a challenge. But we're working on it. We just hired 3 people, and we got hopefully more coming in. If anybody out there is interested in building Maules and you got some skills with tools or building things, call us up, send us a resume, and maybe you can help us build some amazing STOL aircraft.
Become a more intimate member of the Maule family. Start swinging a wrench and
Exactly.
building them.
Exactly.
That is
Exactly.
that is so cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that that everyone's kind of made it through there, and I think we're seeing that in general aviation and across the board that people have realized that there's more utility to this, especially in the current times than previously thought. It's a really good alternative to keep for business, for personal travel, et cetera, to some of the issues going on with airlines.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And it's like our airplane in particular. You see everybody drives SUVs now. You don't see as many sedans. You see trucks and SUVs because people, life, you got a lot of stuff you got to do, and those types of vehicles help you do it. Same way with our airplane. You know, it's utilitarian, but it's also nice. You know, yeah, you can get leather interior and everything like that. It's fully upholstered and beautiful inside. And I've got pictures on our website so you can see,
Yep.
you know, how they look. But anyway, it's got the utility, so you can
Right.
carry 4 people or 5 people, or you can take
Mhm.
out the rear seats in under 1 minute. You've got the rear seats out, no sign off needed. Put in your mountain bikes, put in your hunting gear, put in your golf clubs. I've taken my dog flying, uh, you know, whatever you can stuff in the back. I've seen some interesting loadouts in malls before. Wheelbarrows, 55-gallon drums, motorcycle, uh, a lot of people. So uh, I heard a story about a missionary in Central America, and they were in a conflict, and the opposing force, whoever that was on the other side of the river shooting across the river. There were some people that needed to get out of there. They landed, stuffed 8 people in the mall on the sandbar, took off and flew to safety. So
Wow. That's
yeah.
amazing. And extremely capable also in terms of, all types of flying. So what are you equipping for avionics these days?
Okay, so avionics are an interesting thing. We made the decision to uh, not do in-house avionics. And the reason is avionics are changing so fast. Everybody's
Right.
coming out with new stuff. As an OEM, as a manufacturer, I have to put those avionics on my type certificate. Well, things don't move really fast in that arena.
Right.
Um, so, uh, you know, when we get one approved, they're going to have, the 3 generation later model already available to people.
Right.
So we made the decision. Most of these things are STC'd. We sell the airplane, keep the price low, no avionics in it, and then you can take it to the shop and they can put whatever,
Hmm.
whatever you can sign off with a 337. So you can get Dynon, you can get Garmin, you can get Avidyne, you can get anything that is approved in the mall on their STC, and it's really been working out good for customers. I get some that are getting like a Garmin 750-650 combo with a G500 TXI and a G5, and when that's paired with our JPI 930, which is standard equipment from us, it's just a beautiful, beautiful
Right.
panel. But some people are old school like me. I'm kind of in between old school and new school, so I like to have a few steam gauges so they can get that in the mix. And I have one guy put a whole Dynon panel in, and there's just so much available out there. So I've seen a lot of neat configurations.
Wow. So they leave the factory, steam gauges, no avionics.
Airspeed
And
altimeter, because we don't put vacuum systems in anymore.
yep.
Uh, everybody's doing electronic stuff now. So
Right. So you basically leave like that, and then they basically go across there then to the rest of the family at Mall Flight for the rest.
well, SocialFlight doesn't specialize in avionics, but there are some companies that will come to there, or it's just hour and a half flight. Just take a handheld and
Yeah.
fly somewhere to the radio
And then
shop.
they'll and it's basically taking the same model as the commercial aircraft. They come out a certain way, and then they go for customization.
Yep, exactly. Except
That's
ours
actually
ours don't come out green. We got some beautiful
exactly.
interiors.
Yeah, you're all leather interior, ready to go, and then it lets you go out there and customize,
Yep,
which actually works probably out for everyone because then they can negotiate and figure out everything that works for them.
exactly. It works out good for the customer, and they come out ahead that way. That it's really been a good model.
Absolutely. Well, Brent, tell me as we wrap up where to send everybody. What's the website?
It's mauleairinc.com, and
Excellent.
we've got our brochure. You can download a full brochure. Got descriptions of models. We've got some. We've got a page that sells Maule gear, like my shirt here, and other products, and a lot of great information on the site. Great pictures, so you can see the Maules out in the field. That's the nice thing about the Maule family community of owners, is I get a lot of great pictures sent to me, and I mean, these guys, I mean, it's like these are professional shots too. I mean, they really do a good job. And so you'll see a lot of pictures on our website. Those were provided by customers out in the field that are in some really cool places. You'll see Maules flying, on glaciers, parked in the volcano, an extinct volcano, on the beach, in the Bahamas, and just a lot of great stuff. So
That's awesome. So cool. Well, Brent, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Social Flight Live tonight. You have an amazing company, wonderful family, and really inspirational story there. And of course, the community, as you mentioned, is everything. And I think it's just wonderful that people who decide to buy and fly Maules get such a community that comes right along with it.
yeah, thank you. And yeah, I thank all of our Maule owners. Y'all are great. I just want to say that. And I thank you guys for supporting us. And I hope each one of you somehow is able to make it to the homecoming fly-in to the Maule and all, and so we can meet you in person.
Absolutely.
Always welcome to visit the factory too.
Yeah, well, I look forward to doing that at some point. That would really be a treat. It's definitely so cool. So thank you again. I appreciate you coming and joining us here on Social Flight Live.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And to everyone else out there, thank you so much for joining us tonight, for spending your time. I'd like to remind everyone that there are just a few days left in Social Flight's Fly to Win Challenge. We're giving away a Lightspeed Zulu 3 headset. All you need to do is get the Social Flight mobile app. Just do a search on one word, Social Flight, on the App Store, and you can also check it out, of course, at socialflight.com. You fly, you go to one airport and check in, and you are entered in to win that headset. We are always giving away prizes, and as soon as we give away that Lightspeed Zulu 3 headset on November 1st, we're going to have another prize coming right after that. On our next show, next Tuesday, November 2nd, we have FAA Surgeon General Dr. Susan Northrup here on Social Flight Live. Week after that, on November 9th, Mike Bush is coming back. We're going to talk about saving you money on maintenance, as always here. And then the following week, on November 16th, Apario President Chris Garberg will be joining us here, and we'll learn about some really cool stuff going on and new products coming out from that company, Apario. So cool. And I would just again like to thank all of you for taking time out of your evening to join us here on Social Flight Live. And I wish you all blue skies.